on Amazon Prime Video. What a mouthful for your streaming service, Amazon. I think that's why you're just calling it Prime Video now, or trying to. I watched from 1986, Back to School, starring Rodney Dangerfield. Probably the best movie he headlines. Rodney Dangerfield, not a lot of luck when it comes to movies. He probably does a fair bit better than Richard Pryor. For somewhat edgy comedians, he does okay. But this might actually have a better story, or at least be the better movie than Caddyshack, which, though funny, doesn't really tie together a movie very well. It's called Caddyshack, has hardly anything to do with the caddies, and it's kind of like, whose movie is this? Back to School, Rodney Dangerfield. He's played by the older brother from, well, Wonder Years at first. It's like New York, the 50s. Was it the 50s? Hell, it might have been the 40s. But he's a bad student, evidently inherits his dad's tailor business, makes a tall and fat store, goes gangbusters, just really does a great job, evidently, and has quite the business savvy. Now he's old, played by Rodney Dangerfield, at the age of, I'm assuming this is actually 60, the way that this is phrased. But he never went to high school. He never finished high school, never went to college. His son's in basically Harvard, looking to drop out. He doesn't want that. He says, you'll never be anybody if you don't get an education. So I'm going to go to college with you. And he has weird misadventures that would get you canceled and thrown in jail. Sees Greek letters, assumed maybe that's where his son lives, at a frat. It's a sorority. Sees a girl in the shower. We see her rack. It's pretty good. He compliments her. Cops show up. But he's a rich guy, eccentric old rich guy. And they treat him nice. And you know, that's something kind of weird. There's kids over that way. But as the film goes on, we really start to see that we're watching the story of both Rodney Dangerfield and his son, the main guy. I think his name's Keith Gordon from Christine, which I reviewed a few weeks back. And you kind of see how there's parallels. They each have a love interest. Keith Gordon wants to be on the swim team, but I guess he's too shy to assert himself or try on the dive. I'm sorry, yeah, dive team. Is there dive teams in college? I've never heard of this. He's interested in, is her name Terry Farrell? She was the tall alien chick, skinny gal in Deep Space Nine. Gets replaced by a younger, cuter girl. Worf falls in love with her, I believe. At any rate, Rodney Dangerfield's into this English teacher. And she's kind of an eccentric English teacher, but I'm kind of confused as to how she has any relationship at all with this stuck-up prick that runs the business school that Rodney Dangerfield is only allowed into because he bought it. He's the one that gave them the funds to break ground on a new business school. With all that said, I kind of wonder, what does Sally Kellerman's English professor see in this snooty asshole guy, who kind of, in a bizarre way, doesn't get like a grand comeuppance by the end of the film? It's sort of weird. You also have Rodney Dangerfield. Robert Downey Jr. is Keith Gordon's best friend in college, his dorm mate. And Rodney Dangerfield moves in, renovates the dorm in a fashion that can only be done if you bought the dorm itself. And he's having parties there. Oingo Boingo shows up, plays Dead Man's Party, instantly giving this huge grades on music. You also have Danny Elfman scoring this. So this seems more like an 80s classic I should have seen before. As things progress, we find that Rodney Dangerfield hires people to do the homework for him. His son wants to actually study and learn. And so you kind of get this conflict, and Rodney Dangerfield then has some second thoughts. It's kind of funny because he hires Kurt Vonnegut to do a book report or an essay on Kurt Vonnegut, fails it, and then has to chew out Kurt Vonnegut. And it's funny. But they have the academic decathlon from Billy Madison. And you could certainly see how Adam Sandler must have had quite praise for this film. Now, this doesn't actually get into any kind of sports athletic activity, but we do have a bit of an oral exam. He gets chewed out by all the professors he took classes from. Sam Kinison is one of them. Seems like a real calm guy until he has to yell. I'm assuming this is Sam Kinison's best / only movie, quite possibly. I know how he passes this, but he also has to sub in for the dive team, bail them out because Johnny Lawrence faked the cramp while going up the high dive. Does something I think they call a triple Lindy, where he essentially goes off the high dive and bounces on all the springboards below. They did say it was impossible, and it is. For 80s effects at the time, they make this look as achievably cartoonish as this movie needs it to look. Yeah, it looks pretty faked, but in a good way for a comedy. So he nails this, pretty much saves the day, and everybody loves him. And at graduation, they even let a freshman give the talk, and guess who that is? Rodney himself. Pretty solid ass movie, honestly. I was not really expecting that. I get back to school, I smell a skunk. Shit. 3 out of 4 stars.